All right, welcome into Ask the Masters one more time. And so right now we are joined by John Norwood from the CPSA, California Pool and Spa Association. And so we're kind of circling the country here. So we did NESPA this morning up in the Northeast, and we wanted to get, John, we wanted to get your perspective on what's going on here in California, both for service and for construction, and figure we'll go right to the belly of the beast. You're up in Sacramento, and figure you're the man to let us know just what you see up in Sacramento.
Sure. Well, first of all, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity. Of course, this all started about a week ago with San Francisco issuing a shelter-in-place order. And that local order was followed quickly by the other 6 Bay Area counties issuing virtually an identical order. And CPSA did put out a alert to our members at that time, and then also a press release to staff and legislators and regulators, etc. And under that local shelter in place document, Section 10 defines the exemptions from the order, i.e. who can stay home. And so it is 10A2, to obtain necessary services or supplies for themselves, their family, or households, or to deliver those services or supplies and products necessary to maintain the safety, sanitation, and essential operation of residences. So when we get that sanitation, we take that to mean, pools. We've got 1.3 million pools in California. Obviously, if you don't maintain them, they're subject to breeding mosquitoes, having other waterborne illnesses. That would be a lot of pools and a lot of breeding grounds. We also have, even though that said residences, we also have under the California Code of Procedure, Title 22, pool maintenance requirements for all commercial pools, which are hotels, motels, gyms, water parks, you name it, resorts. Water has to be tested daily. So, and then just lastly, chlorine, bromine are actually pesticides, and they're regulated by the Department of Pesticide Regulation. Usually these regulations also exempt pesticide or exterminators as well. So we kind of pull ourselves right into all that. We checked with the San Mateo, which is one of the 6 counties, public health department, and they said absolutely sanitation for pools and things came under the order. Construction in the local orders is a little less clear. I think that certainly if the completion of a pool was holding up an occupancy permit, then I think construction would be exempted, and that you could send people out. Because housing is a main focus of these orders, making sure that people get housing. It's much better under the state order. So then so we have the Bay Area counties initially, and then other counties in Southern California, in the Valley, down here in the desert, started piling on with their local shelter-in-place ordinances as well. And then, so the governor put out one. It was, I think, Thursday night, and that's really based on his initial executive order. Only listed, 10 maybe basic industries that are exempt, but then they also issued with that a further guidance, and that is the same guidance as the federal CISA document, which is Cyber Infrastructure Security Assessment or something along those lines. And that lays out all kinds of different industries, and is very compelling as far as we're concerned. So looking at all of our members, which are distributors, retailers, service, um, construction, manufacturers. We put out just was Friday, I think it was, another alert. And so for distributors, we felt that there are four areas of that document that supported the fact that distributors could send some people into their offices or their distribution facilities in order to support um, service and construction and those kinds of things. So under health care, uh, public health, number five, distributors of cleaning, sanitizing, disinfection, or sanitation supplies. Um, Under public works, number three, workers such as plumbers, electricians, exterminators, and other service providers that provide services that are necessary to maintain safety, sanitation, and essential operation of residences. Under other community-based government operations and essential functions, number nine, workers at certain centers necessary to maintain the essential functions, i.e. sanitation. And then lastly, under chemicals, number five, workers who support the production and transportation of chlorine. So for distribution, we felt that there are four areas that are really on point. With regard to service and maintenance, again, the references public works. Number three, workers such as plumbers, electricians, exterminators, other service providers that provide services that are necessary to maintain the safety, sanitation, and essential operation of residences. Under community-based government operations and essential functions, workers to ensure continuity of building functions. So those two things we think are pretty clear for service. And again, that kind of goes, you got to add Title 22 into that with regard to commercial pools, which is the daily testing, that type of thing. Then we looked at construction. Initially, there was only a couple areas of this that went to construction, and in other community-based government operations, essential functions is construction workers who support the construction, operation, inspection, and maintenance of construction sites and construction projects, including housing construction. And then the one that I mentioned before in two places, workers such as plumbers, electricians, exterminators, and others who provide services that are necessary to maintain the safety, sanitation, and essential operations of residences. So those have been pointed to not only by our organization, but people in the construction industry. Then in addition to that, the construction industry appealed to the governor's office on some clarification, and the governor clearly put out in the messaging they sent to us that all construction was exempt. So they want to keep the construction going for everything, and they put out all construction's exempt. Now, the big issue there is kind of state versus local. There are some counties, we understand, that aren't going to issue a building permit for a pool because they don't think it's exempt. And so we've actually appealed to the governor's office with the write-up that we did, asking for confirmation that we were correct in this, as well as to figure out whether there's a state preemption here. Just last night, the California Chamber of Commerce essentially did the same thing. They're asking the governor for the state notice to preempt all the local notices, because it makes no sense for us to start checking with the general counsel or the public health officer of 58 counties in California. That makes no sense at all. So then lastly, manufacturing. Certainly from the chemical side, manufacturing, chemicals workers supporting the chemical and industrial gas supply chain, including workers at chemical and manufacturing plants. That's in number five, workers who support the production and transportation of chlorine. And then you have kind of a general supply chain that's in other government-based operations that say workers at operation centers necessary to maintain other essential functions. So if you go through all this, I mean, you can find something that justifies for distributors, service, construction, and manufacturing, our members, to send at least somebody, some skeletal crew, to support these areas. And even the document that the federal government put out, and it's part of the state has adopted, says that these lists are advisory in nature and that they're not intended to be authoritative or exhaustive, and that they expect public officials as well as industry people to use your own judgment. And so I think that's what we're going to see. There's no penalties under the statewide order, other than what the governor kind of alluded to was peer pressure. There could be, people, if you're, obviously abusing something, people can look at your licenses, professional or otherwise, but that's it. The local ordinances do have a misdemeanor provision in them, but I saw an article yesterday that there have been no citations issued for this. So that's pretty much what we've come down with. And we've, again, not only advised our members through an alert, but the general public through a press release. And then we've worked through a couple state senators, and the write-up that we did yesterday and sent out to everybody that outlines these 4 areas in the support forum. We've asked, I don't know when they'll get to it. We asked the governor's office to confirm that this was in line with his directive and to comment on whether or not the state shelter in place executive order preempted the locals.
So you mentioned something that I would like to come back to a little bit because we do have people all over the country, not just California, that are going to be listening to this as well. You mentioned the cyber document from the federal government.
Yes.
Is that something that you could send us a link to, and we could put it in specifically in there? Because for municipalities outside of California, that may be something that they could refer to and put some strength to their own arguments that they're trying to make.
Almost everybody seemingly is pointing to that document, and it's like I can send it to you, but it's like www.cisa.gov. That might be .gov because it's obviously federal. But I think if you put CSIA and it's cyber infrastructure security, and I can't recall what the A is for it, but yeah, I'm happy to send that to you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, then we can plug that into the comments as we put this out through our channels, and people that are not necessarily in California, we encourage you to go look at that document because it seems like it's a good framework for others to be able to create good policy around.
Yeah, it's really good. It's about 13 pages. The only actual difference I saw between the federal one and the state one is that specifically cannabis shops are mentioned in California as being exempt. So I guess the cannabis business is booming out here during the shutdown.
I guess so. One question that we're asking everybody as well, can you look forward 2 to 4 days? I mean, it feels like every 2 hours something new is coming. So do you have any projections moving forward that you see coming down the line that we should kind of be aware of? Or it almost feels like we've reached kind of that the bottom point, if you will, and we're going to sit here maybe for a little bit. But do you see any things that you're concerned with possibly coming down the pike over the next couple of days here?
Yeah, the only thing is some clarification on state versus local. But given that California is essentially using a federal document, and that is a statewide directive. I mean, of our 58 counties, I think we had 15 or 20 counties do their own. So I'm kind of hoping we get to that point and there's some more clarification there. Other than that, I agree with you. It's kind of there. And we'll see if it's working. I think all the emphasis now is on getting, equipment out to the states and to the hospitals and things like that, all the masks, the gowns, the swabs, the tests, those kinds of things.
John, the just the way that you're so analytical because of your legal background, and you've analyzed this as some of the best information we've gotten all day. We have heard instances where homeowners associations are not allowing people in to the homeowners association based on some misinterpretation of it. You think that there's a way that maybe some of these documents could be presented to the homeowners associations to start to allow construction behind their gates?
Well, we could certainly send you our, press release, this document, the document we put out on Friday that, outlines this. You'll get you have to kind of put the dots together so it's not absolutely clear. But I'm happen to be in a homeowners association right now with 3,500 homes and lots of pools, and we haven't seen any problem here so far. The other, as we know, we've got schools and gymnasiums and workout facilities and things like that closing. Lots of those have pools. So there is going to be a challenge here, to comply with the health care statutes as to pools. But we'll just have to see how it goes.
Wow, John, that's a lot of great information. So everybody out there and Ask the Masters everywhere else in the pool industry, he is John Norwood. He does represent the pool industry for the great state of California, who was kind of at the leading edge of this. John, thanks so much for coming on Ask the Masters. We are going to follow up with you in a couple of days and see where this whole journey takes us.
All right, thank you so much for coming.
Sure. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.